to start by removing the wheel 21mm socket. Remove all 5 of your lug nuts. And remove the wheel. Now that the wheel's off, we have access to everything here. I'm going to start by removing this bracket here for the ABS sensor, a little 10mm. Take that off. This gets stuck on here sometimes, so let's pry it off. There we go. And you don't have to, but I will remove this one as well. That way there's a little bit more slack on this cable. Also a 10mm. Take that off. Perfect, that's a lot better. Now from behind the strut, you'll find this 12mm bolt here that holds your brake hose onto this bracket. Remove that bolt. And remove the hose from this bracket. I have my locking pliers on the back of this sway bar link stud here to hold the stud from spinning, and with a 14mm I'm going to remove this nut. Perfect. Now let's take the axle nut off. 30mm 12-point socket for this. Okay, now we can take the strut bolts out. Now, with a 19mm socket, let's remove the nut and bolt, both of them, that hold the strut onto the knuckle. Okay, there's one. I'm going to leave that in for now. And let's do the same to this lower one. Now tap the bolts through. Take the bolts out the rest of the way. And there's one. As you take them out, make sure the axle gets pushed through the hub. There's the second one. Now push the strut back, the knuckle forward, separate the two, make sure your axle doesn't pull through all the way. And now we can go up top and disconnect the strut from the top. Now in the trunk, you'll see this cover here pop up the small cap here. This is going to expose a little 10mm bolt. Remove that. Now you can simply grab on this and pull up. Maybe help it along with the trim tool. There we go. That exposes the 3 14mm nuts for the top of the strut. Now let's remove all 3 of these. On the last one, be careful because the strut's going to want to fall down. So I'm going to have my tool on here. I'm going to loosen it up a little. Now I'm going to go underneath, hold the strut up, push it, remove the nut the rest of the way. Set the nut aside. Now let's come down here and remove the strut. Now make sure the ABS wire is out of your way, because the best way to do it is to come out this way right here. And here's your old strut assembly. Now let's get the new strut in. Put it in the same way that the old one came out. And just try to line up the 3 bolts at the top. Once it goes in, kind of set it in place, and then grab one of your nuts. Grab one of your nuts and start it on so you can let go of the bottom. This way it's being held in place. All right, now put on the other 2, and then we'll snug them up. Okay. I won't torque them until the weight of the vehicle is on the ground. Now take your strut and line it up with the knuckle. You might have to kind of press the knuckle up into place. Oh, there it is. This one went through. Let's put the top one in. Give it a couple taps with the hammer. Drive it in the rest of the way. Let's reattach the two nuts. Snug these up. Now let's torque them. Torque these to 133 foot-pounds. Let's reinstall the axle nut, bottom it out, torque it to 217 foot-pounds. Okay, 217 foot-pounds. Now let's lock the axle nut in. I'm just going to punch a little slot into it right here. That's perfect. Now let's get our sway bar link back into the strut at the top. Start on the nut and bottom it out. $29 foot-pounds for this nut. Reattach your ABS sensor wire with the two brackets here. Snug it up. And this one right here. Okay. Now let's put the brake hose back and reattach it with this 12mm bolt from underneath. All right, let's get the wheel installed. Let's put all 5 of your lug nuts on, bottom them out, and then we'll torque them to 76 foot-pounds. Now that the weight of the vehicle is on the suspension, let's torque this to 43 foot-pounds. Just going to double check it. All right, now that that's done, let's reinstall this cover. Make sure it kind of snaps back into place. There was this small 10mm screw or bolt that went in here. Snug this up. And the little cap